Right, so we're back and ready for another deep dive
Yeah,
into something pretty crucial for anyone hunting in BC.
for sure.
Today,
Yeah.
we're tackling Indigenous rights
Okay.
and how they directly impact, every time you head out
Absolutely.
into the
Oh, God.
wilderness with your rifle.
Yeah. In BC, hunting almost without exception means hunting on the traditional or treaty territory of a First Nation.
Okay.
It's a unique situation.
Yeah.
That brings up some pretty crucial considerations.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah.
I know we all need a license to hunt, but what makes Aboriginal hunting rights different?
It's a really fundamental difference.
Okay. Yeah.
Imagine your right to free speech.
Right.
It's not something the government grants you. It's a basic right you have as a citizen.
Right.
For Indigenous peoples, their connection to the land and their right to hunt
Yeah.
is just as fundamental.
Okay.
We call these inherent rights,
Yeah.
meaning they exist simply because Indigenous peoples have always been here.
So it's not like getting permission from somebody or applying for something.
Right.
These rights predate, European arrival and are a part of their history and cultural identity.
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And it's important to understand
Yeah.
that these rights aren't individual.
Right.
They belong to the entire community or nation.
Wow.
It's about a whole culture's connection to the land and how they've sustained themselves for centuries.
That's a perspective I hadn't considered before.
Yeah.
So how does that actually play out in practice?
Yeah.
For someone hunting in, say, the Kootenays?
Okay, so let's say you're planning a hunting trip to the Kootenays.
Okay.
That area is largely within the traditional territories of the Kootenai Nation.
Right.
Their relationship with the land and their hunting practices have been in place for generations.
Right.
Recognizing that is the first step towards hunting ethically and responsibly.
So even though I have my hunting license,
Yeah.
I need to be aware of whose traditional territory I'm on
Absolutely.
and understand they have their own system of rights and responsibilities related to hunting.
Yeah. And it's crucial to remember that this doesn't just apply to hunting.
Okay.
It's about fishing, trapping, gathering.
Yeah.
All of these activities are deeply tied to Indigenous heritage and rights.
Okay, so that's a pretty broad spectrum of activities.
Absolutely.
But what about hunting on First Nation reserves or treaty lands?
Yeah.
Is that different?
You're right. That is where things get a bit more complex.
Okay.
Reserves and treaty lands have a different legal status.
Right.
Aboriginal rights still apply,
Okay.
but there are additional layers of jurisdiction and land management.
Gotcha.
Permission to hunt on these lands is a privilege, not a right.
Okay.
Think of it as being invited to hunt on private land.
Yeah.
You need to ask and respect the owner's decision.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, when we talk about Indigenous peoples in BC, this mainly refers to First Nations.
Yeah.
Right?
That's an important distinction.
Okay.
Metis and Inuit peoples in BC
Right.
don't share the same Aboriginal rights and exemptions as First Nations.
Right.
Indigenous rights are incredibly complex,
Okay.
and it's a reminder that we can't generalize.
So what does this all mean for someone who wants to hunt ethically and responsibly in BC?
Well, it begins with recognizing that hunting in BC often means hunting on someone else's traditional territory.
Right.
It means taking the time to learn about the history of the land,
Good.
understanding the significance of hunting to Indigenous heritage, and respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples.
So it's not just about bagging a deer.
Exactly.
It's about understanding the
Yeah.
deeper cultural context
Yeah.
of your actions.
100%.
Where can someone go to learn more about all of this?
The BC Firearms Academy is a fantastic resource
Okay.
for hunter education in BC.
Right.
They can help you navigate these complexities with sensitivity and respect.
Great recommendation.
Yeah.
So next time you're planning a trip, remember that respecting Indigenous hunting rights isn't just a box to tick. It's about understanding that deep connection between people and the land.
For sure.
Your next step. Head over to the BC Firearms Academy and get equipped to hunt responsibly and respectfully in BC.
Absolutely.
Happy hunting.
Good luck out there.